Okay, so we've basically now into part 2 is configuring the ECC to do the dial list. So we've got the database stuff all connected. We've tested from the GCCS tool. So now we want to go into the ECC. Okay, so now we're in the ECC. First thing we want to do is we want to create a service. Okay, so we'll hit new. Okay, so there's a new service, and what we're going to do is we're going to call this Outbound calling service. Okay. Announcements, destination, all that sort of stuff doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters here is that we want to enable. So we create that and destination, overflow. The destination, what we're going to do here, the destination is going to go to our outbound dial group. Okay. So actually what we first want to do is we want to go into our groups and create that group. Okay, so I have an outbound group here and I'll just delete that and we'll start from scratch. Okay, delete outbound. Okay, I'm going to go in new. And we're going to say group is outbound. Outbound group, we'll call it outbound group. And what we want to do is we want to enable dial lists. Okay. After we enable dial lists, we want to make sure we have the right staff in there. So we go to agents, and I'm going to choose myself, and I'm going to hit create. So now I've got the outbound dial group, and we want to create a service. So wait for that to update. So there's the outbound group with one agent. Now I'm going to go into the services. I'm going to create a service. So I'm going to hit new. Right, and I'm going to call this outbound service. Service. And the only thing I want to do here is the destination is going to be into my group, which is called outbound group. Right, I'm going to hit create. Now the other thing you want to keep in note is because the ECC is generating these calls and making these calls, you want to ensure that the route points that you've configured or the IVR ports for the outbound dial have access to trunks because they're the ones going to be initiating those calls. So I've created the service, I've created the group. Now I want to go to the dial list. Okay, I want to create a new dial list. Okay, and we'll just call this campaign 1. The destination type, it's a service, and we want to go to the outbound service. Now we can do things like run a script before transferring to agents. So if we wanted to say, this is an outbound call, please get ready to be connected, and you can play that script. Require agent to confirm. So if I check off that, that means the agent has to confirm that they're going to accept that call. And let's give it 10 seconds. And if I wanted to assign a caller ID to this outbound campaign, this is where I put it. Now, transfer to agent on ring or connect. So this means, do I want to transfer it to the agent when they connect with the end user, or do I want to transfer it to the agent on ring? I'm going to use ring for this example because I'm not going to connect to anybody. The other thing to keep in mind is this feature connect, so you want to be able to answer the call when the end user connects or the person you're calling. It's not supported on SIP trunks because it cannot read the sort of remote pickup by the end. So the end user can't see that connect at the remote end connect. So it doesn't work on SIP trunks. So if you're setting up this outbound dial on SIP trunks, you're going to always have to connect as it's ringing. And the other thing is I saved it all. I'm going to hit create. Now the other thing is that down here I have the ability, it tells me if I hit refresh whether it's active or not, and the ability to kill this dial list, okay, to terminate it. Now before I finish going to create it, well, let's just create it anyways. See if there's any errors. Okay, so now it basically tells me I can't complete it, so I go to my input table here. And now here's what I do. I have to select the database that I'm going to connect to, so it's my dial list connection. The table key column, now this can't be blank, so this is one of the columns that gets returned in your database. Now we had company name and phone number. So let's just double check that in that database, and we call it company. So I'm just going to say company. Now all this uses is just to sort the top 50 records. And then also write my select statement, select star from customers. All right. And if I wanted to, I can test it. It's going to let me know if that actually works. So it's not testing right now. And then I submit a number. And you can see it says database column name. So this will give you the ability, if you return more than 3 columns, to be able to fill all those 3 columns. So now I have only one number, and it's called, in my database column, we'll bring it over here. It's called phone number. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the phone number with a capital N. Okay. And then down here, you can fill in some additional information from your database. So for instance, if we wanted the customer name to be showing up when we bring the call, so we'll say customer name, and we'll add it in. And for us to fill this in with the database, what's coming from the database column name, I click here, and then I say the database column name for customer name will be called company. Okay. And then if I wanted to say the number that we're calling, so customer number, we drop it over, and down here we can say phone number. What this is going to do is going to give you the fields on the pop-up screen that you can read it, so you can see all this information. So I'm going to hit create. Okay, so now this is creating. So, but what I want to do is I want to go back and I want to test my database connection. So I got my dial list connection, right? And I'm going to hit test to see if this works. And there you go. Test query results, number of records, 2 for the query. Select from customers where company is greater than order by the top 50. It will only import 50 records at a time. But the important thing is that select statement worked. So now what we can do is we can now go over to the import tab when we're ready, and we can set this to automatically import 50 records at a time, or we can hit import now. Now I'm not going to hit import now right till we're ready to go. The reason why is there's a couple things you need to have. You need to have your dial list configured, you need to import the database, and you need to have a schedule. And on top of that, you need to have somebody actually logged in. So I'm going to go to the dial list schedules, which is next. And I'm going to say scheduling, and I'm going to say I'm going to add something. So that's today's date. And let's just say that we want this campaign to run for a week. Right, I add it in. So there's the week, and let's just take that one out because there's a mistake. So this will run for a week. Active days, we go in here and say we want it to run Monday through Friday, and you have the ability to actually drill down and set specific ranges if you only want it to work afternoon. So we'll keep it basic here. So I'm going to hit save. So now we have our dial list, and what you see up top here is dial list is not active, which means it's not ready to go. So now I'm going to go into my dial list screen here. Okay, and I'm going to click on import, and I'm going to say import now. That says this action will fetch the rows from your database. So this should return 2 columns. Now, the challenge is you'll hit OK. You don't know if it's successfully imported. You don't know the results. Okay, but if you go, and you don't even know how long it takes, if you go back to your general tab, scroll on the bottom, it'll say control dial list or dial list is not active. I'll hit fresh, and I'll say dial list is not active. So the one thing that we have that we're missing is the agent to log in. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my communicator, bring it over here, and I'm going to log in. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my group select, okay, and I'm going to say just log into the Outbound group. Okay, now I'm logged in. Now if I go and take a look and refresh, dial list is active. So now that I'm logged in and it's been imported, the dial list is actually active. So now all we have to do is wait for a call to come. So the system will go through and take a look at all the calls that it's going to. So now the fact that I hit refresh, the dial list is active. We're actually ready to take active calls. And I think it takes a couple minutes to fire the first call. And so what I'll show you here is if we go to, we'll bring up a window here on the real-time monitoring. We'll bring up a brief dial list report. Okay, so I took my agent manager. You can see that I have one active campaign and there's no calls. So the import actually didn't work. So they're showing no calls there. So that's why I'm not getting any calls logged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my contact center director. I'm going to go over here to import. I'm going to import it now. Hit OK. And what I'm looking for is that this thing to refresh to tell me how many actual calls are in the dial list. Now, as you can see, I actually put myself on logged out and then put the status of the dial list on pause. So I'm going to log in to all groups. You can see that it will now say active. I look at my group select, my personal queue, and the outbound group. Okay, so now, right now, there's no calls coming to me. So basically, the dial list is active, but there's no actual calls. Let's see, this is active, but no actual calls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to terminate this list. Okay, hit refresh, and you're going to see that the dial list is finished. Now I'm going to go back to import, and you can see that it also changed here. So what we're really looking for is two results. So let's do this test to make sure we're connected to the database. So we did find that, and let's check that our phone number is correct and company. All right, go to import, and now we're going to hit import now. We'll hit OK. So we click on the refresh button after we do the import, and it says dial list is active. So we're now active for calls coming in. Now let's say that we want to try 100% of calls. And we can't change anything when this dial list is actually active. And this can give me a warning saying cannot change while dial list is active. Okay, so if I did want to make a change and say that I wanted to recall or redial people after 10, how many percentage of the calls we want to try, I say 100% of retry calls, I have to go in actually to the import, into the general, terminate the list, which you can see is terminated here. Okay. Then I'm going to make that change and hit save. Okay, and then I go back here and hit refresh. Dial list is still finished. We made the change, so I'm going to go back and import it. And I'm going to import some additional records. So I'm going to hit import now. And I go back and hit refresh. And dial list is active. Now that my dial list is active and I imported it, you can see that I actually have two active calls, two total calls. Now what I'm going to do is take my ShoreTel communicator, and what you're going to see and possibly hear is if I go into resume mode, I'm going to see a pop-up on my next call. There you go. Now it pops up basically the destination number, the customer number, and the customer name is LANtelligence. If I hit 10 seconds and hit yes to call, it's going to place that call. And actually with the systems, you can hear my phone ring, and then it's going to connect that call to the outbound line. And as you can hear in the background, it's going to call LANtelligence.
Thank you for calling LANtelligence. Please note.
Now I finish this call, hang up. I've enabled wrap codes. I'm going to put a wrap code in there, and I'm going to say, you know what, I left a voicemail, hit OK. Now I can end my wrap. And now if I go into resume mode, the next call is not going to come in. But you can see right here that it's changed, that there's one successful call, one active call. So as soon as I come off resume again, you're going to see this call pop up. And again, test company, there's a long distance call to LANtelligence. And now I'm not going to answer this one, see what happens. I don't accept that call, and basically it's going to put me on forced release. So now I'm in release mode. So if I go back and hit resume, it's going to pop up again. I hit yes, and in the background you're going to hear it make that call and then connect me in as an agent. and boom, it connects.
LANtelligence. Please note that your call may be recorded for quality assurance purposes. If you know the extension you wish to reach, you may dial it.
I'm going to hang up. I'm going to put in my wrap code, which is going to be live contact. Hit OK. And now you can see I'm in wrap mode, but I'm going to just end that wrap. And we have 2 calls. We have 2 calls done, 2 successful calls. There'll be no more calls that are active. And this actual list is finished. So if I go over to my ShoreTel contact center and I take a look and hit refresh, you'll see that the dial list is active. Okay, so it's active, but there's no more data in it. So you can see that it's active and there's no more calls. So all let's do is waiting for the next database import to bring those additional calls in. And that's it. That's not only how you configure it on the ShoreTel contact center ECC, but also how it looks live once you have it set up.